Right, we're going to start this. The time is 10:20 a.m. Thank you for coming in today.
You're welcome.
All right, now we want to talk about an event that took place yesterday. You were on your way to school, on your way to work, and you saw something on the road?
Yes.
What did you see?
Dead mouse.
A dead mouse. Now, are you sure it was a mouse?
Yes.
Why? How do you know it was a mouse?
Tail.
It had a tail like a mouse? Okay. Fur like a mouse? Anything else? Mousy?
And leg.
Mousy arms and legs. All right. Was there anything else about this mouse? I don't want to feed you.
Eyes.
Eyes? Mousy eyes? All right. Thank you very much. It's very helpful. Now, do you have any other experience finding dead animals on the road? Yes.
Worm.
A worm. You saw a dead worm. And you were able to say that it was a worm.
Mommy told me.
Mommy told you that one. All right. I see. All right. Well, were there any other animals that you found and you, by yourself, you were able to say what it was?
Bird.
A bird. You found a dead bird. How did you know it was a bird? Feathers.
Feather.
A beak.
Beak.
A beak. Feathers and a beak. And so you came to the conclusion that it was a bird. Any other animals?
Frog.
A frog? Now, how would you know that that was a frog?
Leg and arm.
They have froggy legs and froggy arms.
Yes.
All right. Anything more about this frog?
That frog is so big.
He was so big?
Yes.
How big?
Your hand よりも大きい.
Bigger than my hand?
Yes.
Was he as big as my face?
それぐらいかな.
It's a big frog. All right. Can you tell me about it? Yes?
携帯よりも大きい気がする.
Bigger than my phone. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, my face is bigger than my phone. Were there any more dead animals you wanted to talk about today?
Hibagon.
Hibagon. All right. Last video I told you my reasons, and I lost count of reasons. Couldn't hold so many reasons in my hands, and I haven't fleshed them all out yet. We're still in opening proceedings. But I say if you're out and about Mount Hiba, home of the Hibagon, and you find a 2-meter-tall humanoid, hairy, bipedal primate cadaver, I say you are perfectly justified in calling that thing a Hibagon, because it matches no other known creature. Yes, this is now a known creature. We have what I think they call a holotype specimen. Is that correct, Sis? Sis is our resident biologist. And if the Hibagon were standing trial for the crime of being a Bigfoot, I'd say old Ben Matlock himself would be pretty hard-pressed to defend him. Physically and behaviorally, the Hibagon matches up very well, and we have dozens and dozens of sworn eyewitnesses and other eyewitnesses going back hundreds of years, and I have a lot of objective, neutral, expert witnesses who can talk about this cadaver. But what are the counter-arguments? To be fair and balanced, in this video we will look at the defense counsel's arguments. Well, first up is one Bigfoot expert from North America. I won't tell his name because I don't want to fight with anybody. I'm a lover, not a fighter, and if this person wants to stand up for him or herself, he or she can. It's a free country. But this person says that the Hibagon is not a Bigfoot. No way. In no way a Bigfoot, because too small, gait, stride, and walk all wrong, facial features totally wrong, and lack of consistent sightings. Conclusion of this Bigfoot expert: the Hibagon is just some common animal. Now, this person's credentials: no degree in a relevant field, but I don't hold that against him. There is no accredited degree in Bigfootology. My 5-year-old daughter doesn't hold a degree in a relevant field, but she has brains. She has her God-given common sense and reason. I don't have a degree in a relevant field, so that's not a problem. But this might be. Never been to Japan, let alone Hibagon regions. So never been up there, never spoken to the people, never hiked around, never found Hibagon stick structures in the woods. Well, never mind. Okay, doesn't speak Japanese. Well, and doesn't read Japanese. So these are significant handicaps for someone researching this topic from his or her comfy chair in North America. Refused to see the cadaver photos when offered. Maybe I'll change that to declined, more neutral language. Declined a free copy of my book. So uninformed or underinformed by his or her own choice. So deliberately uninformed or underinformed. Okay, first I'll take on the argument from size. Hibagon, it goes, Hibagon are not Bigfoot because Hibagon are too small. Well, if your minimum size for bears is the polar bear, then this is not a bear. These are not bears. These are not bears. If your minimum size for a horse is a Clydesdale, then there are no other horses. This is not a horse. These are not horses. This little peewee can't be a horse. Don't believe your lying eyes. If your minimum size for a human being is just the average height of a man, just the average, then, hey, you've just dehumanized me because I'm a little bit under average. Only a smidgen. These guys are not human. Few women are human, and no children are human. This argument from size ignores perfectly normal population differences, subspecies differences, sex differences, age differences, and genetic abnormalities. I can defeat it by just repeating random words. Watch. Wombat, 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 wombat. Sloth, 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 sloth. The most common height estimate for the Hibagon was 5'4". Probably juvenile, in my opinion. Think about it in your own life. When were you more likely to break rules, wander into forbidden territory, touch forbidden things, fall victim to your own curiosity? The cadaver that we have is 6'5", but we have on record a Hibagon that stood 9 feet tall. I have the 2 eyewitnesses' names and the place and the very personal and comical circumstances of that encounter. We will get to it. Mark, You've been reading ahead. You might know which encounter I mean. The argument from size is sizist, and I'm sorry, it's silly.
Not an argument.
Gait, stride, walk. These go together, and I will even throw in there, because I am friendly and helpful, the footprints. 2 pairs of shoes found in this very office. The wearers have radically different gaits and strides and walks. They leave footprints of radically different sizes and depths. One of these is not human and probably doesn't even exist. Different gait, stride, and footprints. This is not a dog. Different gait, stride, and footprints. None of these are deer, because my sizest standard for deer is the Irish elk.
Not an argument.
Facial features. I think the argument goes that because all dogs have the same facial features, and all monkeys have the same facial features, and, you know this, all humans have the same facial features, and that's why Brad Pitt is going to play me in Hibagon, Japanese Bigfoot, the movie, the 3D movie, because we look the same. So therefore, all Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Hibagon individuals they must have, the same identical facial features, just like my wife and me, right? I'm Brian, and so's my wife. Someone tried to sell me that this was a mother and her babies. And then he seriously tried to sell me that this was a mother and her babies. I told him, "Take a hike, Jack, and go peddle your bunkum elsewhere. I don't buy your chop suey, because not the same facial features."
Not an argument.
Lack of consistent sightings. Does any Bigfoot provide consistent sightings? Do you mean like appearing consistently at scheduled times and places? Like showing up for work? Or coming to school on time? I don't even know what this means, providing consistent sightings. But if we're talking about consistency of eyewitness accounts, consistency of testimony, I think the Hibagon provides the most consistent sightings I've ever heard of or read, and we will get to them. But I don't think this Bigfoot expert ever got to them, because this government document was not easy to find, even if you can read Japanese. Now, if we are talking about punctuality and showing up on time, I think the Japanese and North American Bigfoot are both pretty sloppy, in my opinion.
Not an argument.
Common animal. Okay, so what's in the Japanese forest? You got your giant salamander. You got your double-jawed land leech that drops on your head from trees. You got your Joro spider. You got lots of common animals. But if you're talking about, because you're forced into talking about large mammals, well, you really only have 3. You got your bear, your wild boar, and your deer. Or possibly, I'm going to give you this, an amalgamation of all 3. A mutant bear-pig deer. I'll even give you, to be totally fair and balanced and even-handed, I will give you man-bear-pig. The problem is, Hiroshima mountain people are familiar with bear and wild boar and deer. And not a single one of the eyewitnesses ever compared Hibagon to a bear or a pig or a deer. They were very consistent. It was some kind of primate, and I think they were right because it left primate footprints and a primate cadaver with primate teeth. Your Honor, with all due respect, I submit that this Bigfoot expert witness is unprepared and uninformed. I do not want to risk a mistrial on account of him, so I motion that the court allow a more competent expert witness. Thank you, Your Honor. The prosecution calls to the stand Dr. Tadaaki Izaizumi. Dr. Izaizumi is a celebrity zoologist, and he is highly credentialed, graduated from Tokyo Fisheries University, was a special research student at the National Museum of Science and Nature, and a researcher at the Fuji Natural Zoo Association. He served as animal commentator at the Ueno Zoo. His achievements include capturing live the world's smallest shrew, but mainly he is an armchair zoologist. He writes books, and that's suspicious. I don't trust a guy who writes and pushes books, pushing books on innocent minds. Well, anyway, Dr. Izaizumi thinks that dozens and dozens and probably hundreds of area residents and the police were totally fooled and tricked by a macaque monkey. Now, this argument has the advantage of bringing in a primate, but area residents they kind of know what these monkeys look like already. They're about as common here as raccoons and squirrels back home. Eyewitnesses were consistently terrified. And these little monkeys are not, well, I don't know. Does this old lady look terrified? Maybe. These ladies might be terrified, and this little girl may be terrified. Do we have any body language experts in the house? Okay, I will grant that these little monkeys could be utterly terrifying to some people. These things are subjective. My wife laughs at me mercilessly when I'm screaming like a little girl just because a double-jawed land leech dropped on my head. In fact, even my own little girls laugh at me mercilessly. But still, what stops me from buying into Dr. Izaizumi's argument is that macaque monkeys don't get this big. They don't leave cadavers this big. And if they did, well, then my veterinarian and my primatologist would have been glad to tell me, "Oh, Kyle, that's just a ginormous mutant macaque monkey." But it's not. Now, it's fine for Dr. Izaizumi to pull macaque monkeys out of his head. It's a free country. He can do that. But he has the luxury of not dealing with facts and reality. And those are the counter-arguments.
Not an argument. Not an argument. Not an argument. Not an argument.
I must say they didn't move me. I thought this guy had more cogent points. Of course, until the day that we can get two specimens together, a male Bigfoot and a female Hibagon, or vice versa, in a nice romantic cage, married properly, and pipe in some soft music and turn the lights down low, we won't know for sure. But from the historical record and observations in the field and the cadaver and the anecdotal mutual forced reproduction with human females, I still think the evidence is beyond reasonable doubt. Unless you are multiplying cryptids willy-nilly out of your head, or unless you can tell me what page of your dumb book deals honestly and intelligently with this. Okay, we had to deal with the counter-arguments to be fair and balanced. Now, frankly, I think this show of opposition today was poor, low quality, and beneath us, really. It's like fighting an opponent who's made of tissue paper and Scotch tape. Those land leeches are far more impressive. When I began looking into the Hibagon, I had my own objections. And I'm biased, but I think they were much better and stronger objections. So I'll share those next time, and I will argue against myself. And I'll do better than these guys, but I will still lose. After that, coming up, the cultural, historical context. You know, the standard narrative says that Hibagon just crashed out of the bush onto the road one day, totally without precedent. Now, that would have been weird if true, but it isn't true, not at all. There are centuries of Hibagon sightings before this, Hibagon known by other names, Hibagon in ancient Japanese documents, Hibagon in an ancient Japanese encyclopedia, Hibagon in ancient Japanese religion. Now, these old accounts are going to take us into a very real, very dark side of the Hibagon. And, yeah, it's serious. This is all very interesting and important to me and relevant because I live here and I have a wife and small children that I want to protect and keep safe. Well, I hope it interests you. I'm Kyle. I wrote Hibagon Japanese Bigfoot. I'm pushing that book on innocent minds. This is the video supplement. Thank you. Have a good weekend. Stay out of the peanut butter. Bye-bye.